What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad to see you back. And in this video, I am going to talk about concealer. And I'm going to explain the basics and kind of misunderstanding or kind of being misinformed about possibly what concealer actually does and what is considered a concealer. Before we get into the more specifics, I want to thank all the people I've reached out to in a lot of transgender groups for subscribing to me, for leaving lovely comments, and it is so motivating and helpful, and I want to thank you all so much. So now, moving on. A concealer is a cosmetic product used to hide imperfections in the face, such as large pores, discoloration, and dark circles. It is often used with foundation to make the skin more uniform in color, though it is thicker and more pigmented than most foundations are. And the most common and current method is to brighten areas of the face. What you should understand about concealer is it's not always used to brighten areas with large amounts like a lot of pro MUAs out there. There are three main ways concealer is used, and these vary by product. There is blemish concealing, there is color correcting concealer, and the most popular, brightening concealer. Firstly, we'll talk about blemish concealing. This is when you use concealer to hide various blemishes. In this case, particularly, it is acne. What you should understand is a term called spot concealing. This is when you single out that blemish and you apply product over it solely. You would apply it evenly, but not too thick. In this case of blemish concealing, what you should be doing is going out to get a concealer that matches your skin tone. If you're doing blemish concealing, understand this. If you're trying to cover very dark spots, this type of concealer might not work for you. Think about it. If you add something light to something that is dark, it's just gonna make the spot lighter. It's not gonna make it go away. In these instances, a color corrector is going to work wonders for what you wanna cover. Remember this in makeup. Anything that makes something lighter is going to draw attention to that area, whether you like it or not. When you're blemish concealing, depending on the look you want to achieve, you might actually end up skipping the foundation step. Some people end up having just more of a desire to cover up their imperfections with makeup, therefore giving a more natural look, not so much a full theatrical coverage look. Understand in makeup that less is more. Next is what you call a color correcting concealer. This is meant to treat and neutralize unwanted colors that appear in your face. You would be applying colors like green, yellow, purple to get rid of unwanted colors in your face. And wouldn't you know it, this is one of the answers to the beard zone. And this was something I totally wished I knew when I transitioned. Take any color wheel, just look up color wheel on Google. For instance, if you wanted to cover up red spots, you would go with a green color corrector to fix that problem. In that on the wheel, the two of them are opposite to one another. This is a concealer you would apply before your foundation, so that way your foundation can go over it, the color is neutralized, and looking nice. These are the color correctors I have. So this is the MAC Studio Fix Conceal and Correct palette, and this is what is considered a staple, is the NYX Color Correcting Concealer. This will give you a basic rundown in what color correctors are, and it'll give you a ton of options for various problems. And with the Conceal and Correct palette, some correctors are a lot more subtle than you think. Some of them a little bit more yellow, some have more of a peachiness, and a little more of a salmon. So this is a little more drastic, but all of these are considered color correctors. Lastly, the most popular form of concealing is brightening concealer. This is when you add brightness and therefore more dimension to your face. It's kind of like a reverse contour. I'll give you a basic diagram. So pretty much the areas you would be applying this concealer are the middle of the forehead, middle of the nose, upper cheekbones, usually your chin, but it is most often used, and I think it's more emphasized, to cover up the dark circles underneath your eyes. That is one of the main uses of concealer in general. So if you're going to go with the very popular and very trendy brightening concealer, I would recommend in this case, this is when you would go with a concealer that is 1 to 2 shades lighter than your skin tone. Now that we have broken down concealer and its various uses, what we're going to do is go into various, I should say, textures or certain products that are out there. First of all, liquid is the most popular form of concealer. You'll see most people using one of these because it is pretty much the most versatile type of concealer. It can come from sheer all the way to full coverage. And it is generally for all skin types apart from the very dry skin types out there, in that it could emphasize dryness and cause like a flaky vibe going on. So be sure of that. Due to its thinness, it won't emphasize the fine lines in your face and it won't crease as much. And finally, due to its thinness, it's least likely to clog your pores. Liquid concealer is the most versatile because of all the finishes that are out there. It can come in a matte, satin, or radiant finish. Matte lasts longer, it reduces the shine, but it could also emphasize dryness. Satin works for a natural look, it corrects small imperfections, and this might be the best option to go with a no foundation look. A radiant finish works great for brightening your under eyes and provides a soft glow. Next is what's called a creamy concealer. It is far thicker than a liquid concealer, and due to this comes in a medium to full coverage. And like radiant liquid concealers, these also work great for the under eyes. They usually come in a pot form like this, and they come in a satin or just a creamy finish. Cream concealers work for normal to dry skin types, not so much oily. Next is one that you don't hear about too often, what's called balm concealers. It is very thick in form, it's known to stay on the face all day, and they're great for normal to oily skin. Know that a lot of balm concealers tend to be color correctors, so in this case, you would apply it before your foundation. Next is a stick concealer. It is thick, it's creamy, and it's heavily pigmented, possibly giving the fullest coverage out of any concealer out there. These come in either a satin or matte finish. These are good for normal, dry, and sensitive skin, not too much oily / combination / in the summertime, because just its heavy nature, it'll make it harder for that product to stay on all day, and you'll find you're struggling that it'll melt on you. And furthermore, the ingredients that are put in to maintain that stick form in this concealer could possibly clog your pores, so be out for that. In a little detour, I'm going to talk about lipstick being a color corrector. And you see a lot of people covering up their beard shadow with a very red or orange lipstick. Here's the thing. I want to stress that I am not a pro MUA. From what I've just said about stick concealers, it goes the same with lipstick. The oil in this could possibly clog your pores too much if you're using this in the stash zone. So I am just jumping in while I am editing this video, and pretty much what I was implying here is that you see certain makeup techniques being done online or on social media, and the thing is that certain makeup techniques might not work for you or might not be working for everybody. Everyone has a different face shape and everyone has a different skin type, so everyone's going to react differently to various products. And when people online use makeup techniques that are known to be not very good for the skin, it could be that they just have really good skincare. Their skin is just not that angry at them. If you have used lipstick as a color corrector and it has helped you, you've not experienced a lot of problems, I'm not going to fault you for that. It's just, it's possibly not going to work for everybody. Next up is, again, something you don't see very often, is actually a powder concealer. This is essentially a heavily pigmented face powder. It lasts far longer than, say, a liquid or stick concealer. It suits sensitive, oily, or acne-prone skin. And lastly, again, pretty rarely, is what's called a pencil concealer. It's a pencil form, but it technically has a more creamy, waxy texture to the actual concealing part. It's not as hard as you think. It's actually a lot more blendable than you'd assume. And an important thing to note about concealers is, like foundation, some of them contain an SPF. So for example, my cream concealer by MAC is a 35, but you'll find it tends to be a little more rare than foundation. Alright, so we understand concealer. Now we're going to talk about how do I pick the right one for me. Now for blemish concealing, again, like I said, pick one that matches your skin tone. For color correcting, I would recommend getting a specific color that is required for your situation, or you could get a kind of all-in-one palette such as by NYX, and you have various options to choose from. And for brightening concealer, which I'm sure you all want to use, including your girl, you want to get one that is 1 to 2 shades lighter than you. Now we're going to get into how do I apply it. Obviously, I think you're going to know that due to all the options and due to all types, it's going to depend. Obviously, with color correctors, you're going to want to apply that first, and then cover over it with a foundation or a concealer that matches you. Now, your technique is going to vary from person to person with all makeup tools, so you should know that some people apply concealer before foundation, but the majority of people do foundation first and then go in with my concealer. An important rule to note is that if you use a powder foundation to begin with, you're gonna wanna apply that concealer first. An important rule in makeup, liquid should not go over powder. It doesn't work. A lot of bad stuff can happen. In terms of the tools you use to apply concealer, it works the same way with foundation. You can use a brush, you can use your little fingerlings, like I said, or a beauty blender as well. For a beauty blender, what you might end up doing is the same beauty blender you used for your foundation, you could go in with your concealer with that same sponge. Especially with a makeup brush, know that with concealer, you want to be very conscious of the term stippling. This is when you work a product into your face with kind of patting motions, almost like you're stamping it in. And to your luck, there are makeup brushes that are specifically used for stippling. You could apply concealer with your fingers, that also works. The body warmth of your hand will make the product easier to work with. Another piece of advice I give you for applying concealer, definitely do not get used to a dragging habit. Do not streak, especially with concealer. It's far thicker, it's more pigmented, so a rule of thumb, tap it in, don't drag it in. In advice I would offer cross-dressers or fellow trans women, less is more. I think a common mistake I see is just too much makeup in general. With concealer, that is especially noticeable due to its thickness. Pretty much what I'm saying is you might not need as much coverage and as much makeup as you think. All right, everyone, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. Hopefully I gave you a better understanding of concealer and how it's not as simple as you actually think it is. So if you like videos like this, please give me a like and be sure to subscribe because you will not want to miss what is next. See y'all later.